screenfiles.com with review. Apple is an awesome company. I think all their electronics, such as their iPods, iMacs, iPhones, they're really neat. Great electronics. The only thing is, movies and television shows have appropriated that naming system, and it's irritating, such as iZombie. Great show, by the way, if you haven't seen it. Really good. But iZombie, irritating name. The movie I'm talking about today is called iBoy, which is really dumb. It's a terrible name. Good movie, terrible name. The movie stars Bill Milner as a young person who, in midst of interrupting a crime against one of his friends, is shot. He happened to be holding a cell phone near his head at the time. So somehow parts of the cell phone became embedded in his brain, giving him the ability to interface with these devices. Kind of like, visually, it looks like what Sherlock does what Sherlock Holmes does, I should say, when he's thinking on Sherlock. You see visualizations of his thought process. With iBoy, when he is intercepting phone calls and so on, he does a similar process. You see it in the air as if it were actually visible. It's not. That's just a device by the makers of the show, of the movie in this case, to let you know what's happening. And it's a pretty clever idea. The idea that he can text without a phone, and he can send messages to a phone without actually using a phone. It's almost, story-wise, it's essentially Spider-Man. In this instance, instead of being bitten by a radioactive spider, he has bone components in his head. Which is fascinating because it's dumb. Ironically enough, though, the interfacing between man and machine is much more logical to happen at some point in our near future than the whole radioactive spider thing. And frankly, if you're willing to accept Spider-Man, you should have no problem with this, because it's no more outlandish a concept. And as I said, it's actually a lot more plausible than the whole, well, not the cell phone bits in the head, that's stupid. But the whole idea of people interfacing with computers and our handheld devices, that's very likely to happen in our near future. So it's a heck of a lot more plausible than a radioactive spider. And it's actually pretty clever. It's something about when these movies are made in British hands as opposed to Americans, how they can take a real implausible concept and make it work. Part of it is because I think they don't take it too far. In a sense, if iBoy were an American movie, he'd be worried about taking over the world and there'd be a grand conspiracy. That's not what this movie is. It's actually relatively small. As I said, he has the ability to interface with electronic devices, phones in particular, computers. So all he's concerning himself with is stopping the crime in his local tenement. That's his biggest concern. And it doesn't get beyond that. It doesn't become world-threatening. It's very small, very local, and that's very good to see. It doesn't have to be the universe is at stake. It's just a few people's lives. That's enough, and that works. What doesn't work is that later in the movie, he seems to have this ability to make people just like wince, as in pain. Like, I guess it seems almost like a sonic power, as in they can barely stand, they're shouting and screaming, and he's doing something to them. And when I initially saw it, I assumed that they had those little earphone thingies for telephones that I see people wearing all the time, but I'm not sure that's the case, because towards the end it does it again, and this character doesn't have it at all. So that I didn't understand. Little odd. There's some, as I mentioned already, there's some inconsistencies in it, but it's not off-puttingly inconsistent. Check out iBoy on Netflix. It's a good time, clever, well done, good stuff. Brian from ScreenFiles.com.